Welcome back. The community of Mount Horeb is still grappling with what almost could have been. A student brought a pellet gun to the town's middle school and was eventually shot and killed by police with no other injuries during that incident. But the event still shocked the community. Reporter Maddie Heimsch sat down with a parent and student from the district and takes us behind the scenes of that day.
If you could just, if you're comfortable, kind of running me through what Wednesday was like from the perspective of a parent.
So I was on a Zoom from home, like we all do since COVID, but I was just on a Zoom and my phone started ringing, and I did the classic thing where you like answer it, but you don't actually like pick it up, because I was like talking, so I'm like, can you just hang on, it's my daughter, which was a little weird because she's more of a texter. And I was like, why is she calling me? And I picked it up and it was so weird. I think because there were so many kids packed into the one closet, they were all on their phones and they were all hysterical. It was so hard to hear. It sounded like she was like 10 feet away from the phone, and she kept saying there's a shooter, and she's crying, and you know, it took her saying it 3 or 4 times for it to even register in my head. As a parent, you know, you want to rush right there, but I knew that like she said, no, you can't come, and I didn't want to be, you know, the person who shows up, bangs on the door, like, give me my kid, because I know that's not helpful in the situation. You know, even knowing that your child is safe in the moment, there's still all those unknowns of like, what is actually going on, and did anyone else get hurt, and just the shock that it happened.
And then, Anna, tell me a little bit from your perspective how Wednesday went. Where were you when it started? When did you realize what was happening, and what was that process like for you?
So we were at lunch, and I sat from the farthest away table from the window where he was, and it was like around, I think, 11:15, and we end lunch at like 11:24. So people started getting up and running and screaming, and we were all like, well, lunch isn't ending right now, so what's going on? And I didn't see anything. I didn't see him at the window, so I was really confused, but I was rushing out with everybody else. I think most people just did what other people were doing. So I went out one of the hallways, and there were kids in the hallway playing their instruments from band, and I and others started just saying, you need to run, there's a shooter. So we started running, and I ran past our basketball courts, down a hill, and that's when I heard shots. And I just kept running the whole time. I never looked back. And we ran across the road, we ran behind houses, and then we were kind of up on a hill, and I started yelling to go to the CCS. And once we got inside, I called my mom, and we were in like a little bit of a playroom area, but then they rushed us into this really small closet. It had 2 doors that were connecting to different classrooms, but there weren't locks on them, and it was very small. It was packed with like storage stuff. So we were all just in there, and we all started crying and calling and texting our parents, and 2 kids in my class had to hold the doors because they didn't have locks on them. But we came out after we knew we were safe, and it was a few more hours before we could all leave the school, and there was a police officer that had to question us when we came out. We had to go out one by one, and our parents picked us up there. And then I just went home, and yeah.
And did you know who was outside when it was happening?
I knew when we got into the closet and everybody started saying his name, and I knew right away who he was.
And have you known him in the past? Were you friends with him, or tell me a little bit about?
So I knew of him, and he was in a few of my classes. He was in my homeroom class, which is our first class of the day. We go for 25 minutes at the start of every day, and the day before it on Tuesday, I had talked to him and asked him for a chair, and he seemed completely fine and normal, and then that happened. But I knew him as like a funny kid. He had like kind of a dark humor, but nobody really thought it was serious ever.
What was your reaction as a parent that this kid is posting these things publicly to social media, on this website?
You know, immediately you're mad, because you're like, why, when he was posting all this, why did this still happen? And you hate to, I don't put blame on anyone. You know, of course, in my head, I'm thinking, well, even if adults didn't see, there had to be other kids who saw these postings, and why didn't they, you know, see how wrong this was, how scary this was. Because I thought to myself, you know, at first you're like, why didn't his parents know? But then I think to myself, I don't monitor their social media accounts. I mean, I have no concerns about them. I have no reason to monitor them, but you know, then I can't really hold that against other parents for not knowing what their child is posting on social media.
And is that something that, as you've gone back to school now, you've had conversations with teachers and administration, I'm sure, kind of talking about if you do see something like that with your classmates, speak up?
Yeah, if you see something concerning, even a little bit, to say something, and I have so far. I have said things that I thought might be concerning.
How do you feel differently today than you did a week ago before this all happened? Do you feel like you have kind of a different perspective on school or your classmates or after this event?
I definitely do. I've been just observing more people and seeing like people who I think were kind of like him, and it does concern me sometimes, just knowing that we thought he was a normal kid and he did something we never thought anyone would do. And I haven't felt safe at school, really, so that is one of the biggest things for me.
And how do you feel differently sending your girls to school now?
It's just that whole, you know, you never think it's going to happen to you until it does. I still have really good feelings about, I really feel like our schools are secure. I mean, with the entrances and everything being locked. You know, it's funny, that's like annoying as a parent when you have to go to school and you have to buzz in and you have to say who you are and stuff, and now I will never be annoyed with that again because now you know why that is. And I still think it's a lot safer here than many other places.
Yeah. Did you surprise yourself with your reaction? Were you calmer than you thought you would be, or what was that like?
I mean, I was crying pretty much as everyone else was. I think at a certain point when I did get pretty calm, I was fine, but I did kind of surprise myself with how much it impacted me after, because I didn't think, I mean, I told myself I won't need any therapy or anything, but it has done a lot to me.
And I was grateful that she's not just, you know, shoving it away. She's really accepting the fact that, yeah, I do need to talk about it. And so, yeah, I'm not surprised. I'm proud.
When we come back, one of the biggest pieces of legislation passing out of the Capitol this past session gets a new court challenge. We speak with one of the attorneys working to overturn that new law right after this.
MG&E, building your community energy company for the future through the power of working together. Committed to cleaner, more sustainable energy, driven by innovation, fostered by shared values. Visit MGE2050.com.
Stanton Optical is the best value in eye care. We did the math, people. For $79, you get all this. That costs over $200 at Walmart, over $300 at LensCrafters, and over $200 at America's Best. When it comes to value, Stanton Optical is the top bird. With the best service, quality, and prices, Stanton Optical is the best value in eye care. To help you remember, I made this cheer. V value, A awesome value, L lots of value. You get 2 pairs of free eye exam and anti-glare lenses for only $79.
Okay, nature lovers, at US Cellular, you can get an iPhone 15 Pro on us, plus $300 off a new iPad.
It's true. Check out this amazing photo of an Iberian lynx I got.
That's a tabby cat.
And a slaty bristle front.
A pigeon?
And even Bigfoot.
Yeah, so that's Gary?
Oh, yeah, bro. That's me.
Bigfoot does not exist.
And Gary does exist.
Right now at US Cellular, get an iPhone 15 Pro on us, plus $300 off any iPad. US Cellular, built for us.
You've got this. You didn't think your sister would take you up on the dog sitting offer, but here you are. Barriers purchased. Doggy distractions, no expense spared. Yeah, you've got this. Just like Associated Bank's got you with $50 overdraft grace zone. So when you have to make a purchase, or 7, to prepare, you can be sure we're looking out for you, so you can look out for him. You've got this with Associated Bank.
MG&E, building your community energy company for the future through the power of working together. Committed to cleaner, more sustainable energy, driven by innovation, fostered by shared values. Visit mge2050.com.
Welcome back. Last year, the governor and legislature came to an agreement to overhaul how the state regulates alcohol sales and distribution in Wisconsin. Now, that change impacts a broad swath of the community, including barn owners that allow private events like weddings to be hosted on their land. Now, 2 wedding barn owners are now suing to get parts of that law overturned. Joining us now is one of the attorneys representing those wedding barn owners, Vebber with the Wisconsin Institute for Law and Liberty. I'm going to first ask you to run through some of the changes after that overhaul law was passed last year.
Yeah, so the biggest change deals with the definition of a public place. So Wisconsin law requires a liquor license in 2 instances. The first is if you're selling alcohol. The second is if you are consuming alcohol in a public place. So historically, wedding barns and the events that they host there have not been considered a public place. Those are private events with your personally invited guests. So they've never had to get a liquor license. What Act 73 did was it expanded the definition of public place to include a whole host of places that were never before public and are now going to be considered public places for the first time. Virtually any property that's available for rent in the state of Wisconsin for an event like a wedding is now considered a public place and would need to obtain a liquor license.
So now, how do they draw that distinction in the law where a bar is a public place? Is it a public place just because you can walk up into it?
A bar would be, the public is welcome to walk into it anytime. Bars also, of course, sell alcohol, so they would need to be licensed on that for that reason also. But yeah, because, you can exclude, the public isn't welcome at your wedding party, your reception. It's just a private party. It's just like if you were hosting a dinner party in your house or Thanksgiving dinner in your house. But, if you had a really large family coming over and your house was small and your neighbor's house was larger and you went over to your neighbor's house to host your party, that's, it doesn't make it a public place simply because you're going over there.
Does it make a difference at all if there's a transaction involved with the wedding barns?
So the wedding barn just rents the space to the individual. So it wouldn't be, certainly not selling any alcohol or engaging in that. But yeah, because under Act 73, because the wedding barn is leasing the space for an event, they are considered a public place under the Act. Now, those provisions take effect in January of 2026. So there is about a little over a year and a half left before those go into force. But these event venues, our clients and others are hurting now. I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding what the law did and whether they'll be able to host events going forward, and certainly couples plan their weddings, well in advance, and so they're trying to get relief right now.
So when you talk about your clients possibly needing to get a liquor license, how laborious would that process be for them?
Yeah, so for one of our clients, they live in a township, or they operate their business in a township that doesn't issue liquor licenses. It's a dry township, so that's not an option for them. For other client, if they wanted to get a liquor license, they would have to contact their their town clerk. They would have to apply for it. They would also need to go and get an amendment to their conditional use permit. So these are barns. They're zoned agriculturally. They operate as event venues under a conditional use permit through their zoning. So if they want to essentially be licensed as a tavern, they and probably any similarly situated facility around the state is going to have to go and get that amended, which is no small task itself. And then there's a whole host of other things, like they're going to be changing their business model around completely. There's different accounting, there's different insurance, there's different vendors they have to work with. There's a whole host of different things that they would have to do, and it really upends what they have been doing and what they want to continue to do going forward.
So now part of your case is that the new law violates the Constitution's Equal Protection Clause. What's your argument there?
So what Act 73 did was it imposed this really broad definition of public place. It raked in a lot of facilities all around the state. But then it individually decided to exempt various facilities around. So a wedding barn that's located in a professional baseball stadium district, like in the Milwaukee area, or professional football stadium district in the Green Bay area, wouldn't need to get a license as long as it's hosting an event on the same day as an event at the stadium. So those events can, those venues can operate much more freely than events elsewhere. And then things like parking lots are exempt. Excuse me, campgrounds are exempt. And then, buildings owned by municipalities, buildings owned by churches, clubs. There's a whole host of exemptions under the law where it doesn't apply to. And there's a long line of precedent that says when the government is going to create essentially two classes for regulatory purposes and then that are very similar and then regulate them differently, it would violate our clients' equal protection rights guaranteed under the Constitution. And so that's one of the claims that we bring in this lawsuit.
If this ends up going to the state Supreme Court, do you have a sense of what will happen?
Yeah, I think, this bill was passed with bipartisan support, but there was also bipartisan opposition to it. So I think these are issues that kind of transcend politics, partisan politics anyways. I don't think these are Republican or Democrat issues that we're suing on here. I think for the most part, these are, our lawsuit raises common sense issues. If you're going to regulate places differently, and impose these broad requirements on these venues and then carve out all these exemptions to it, I think most people would find that objectionable.
Lucas Vebber, thanks so much. And we'll be right back after this.
Hanson's knows what your home means to you. It's where you feel safe, comfortable, protected, and of course, no other place provides you with as much joy. That's why our durable, energy-efficient, and weather-resistant windows, roofing, siding, and gutters, as well as our bathtubs and showers, are all backed by our guarantee. So you can feel happy in your home for years to come. With professional installation and thousands of 5-star reviews, we're your trusted home improvement expert, exceeding homeowners' expectations for over 30 years. Get 50% off installation with high-quality craftsmanship you can count on. Or enjoy no interest and no payments for 2 years. From windows to roofing to siding to gutters to bathtubs and showers, no one's got you covered like we do.
Call 1-800-HANSONS. Get it done.
Obamacare is a disaster. We want to terminate it.
That would mean over 100 million Americans will lose protections for pre-existing conditions.
President Biden has protected the Affordable Care Act and lowered healthcare costs for millions by $800 a year. Now, he'll make those savings permanent.
Healthcare should be a basic right. Folks, he's coming for your healthcare, and we're not going to let it happen. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
To everyone who enjoys a feel-good meal, we're crafting one for you, Wisconsin style.
We're talking handcrafted, cooked to order,
scoop to perfection goodness.
More like greatness.
A snuggle up in the booth, share a bite kind of meal.
A fill you up, heart and soul kind of meal.
Come treat someone you love to a meal they're sure to love.
One always served with a smile.
That comes from the heart.
From Wisconsin with love.
Welcome to Delicious!
Welcome back. Late this past week, officials with UW-Madison reached an agreement with the pro-Palestinian protesters to end the encampment on Library Mall. As part of the agreement, UW officials committed to continuing to meet with demonstrators on issues like divestment. By Friday night, Library Mall was clear of its tents.
We have this agreement in writing, and that's a very good start. But it is on all of us. It is on all of us in the community to hold this university to their word, to keep them accountable, and to keep pushing beyond just the text of this agreement.
And that does it for us this week. I'm Kenneally. Have a great, happy Mother's Day and a great rest of your weekend.